Oh, welcome to the Gamblin Gauchos. I'm Rob Bro. He's Money Mainville. We have got some NCAA tournament talk tonight. We'll go for about 20 minutes here. And if it could be not tonight, it could be tomorrow afternoon you're listening to this. If you're rewatching on YouTube, hello. If you're not on YouTube, if you're on the Republic of Football feed, hello. You can go to our YouTube and hit subscribe. GamblingGauchos.com/ nope. YouTube.com/Gamblin Gauchos. I think there's an at in there. I think it's /@ Gamblin Gauchos, which I don't understand why YouTube does that. I think you can get to the same either way. And then it'll also be on Patreon. So if you're listening on Patreon, shout out to you as well. The Red Raiders are in the NCAA tournament. We'll talk the NCAA tournament as a whole and as a weekend for the Red Raiders. Hopefully, a full, glorious weekend for the Red Raiders as we move through the NCAA tournament. That's what's set up on the rundown per Payne, Powell, Truitt, and Chandler, who are great people. And by the way, Money, if your favorite team, let's say Texas Tech gets just jobbed next year. This is just hypothetical. Let's say your team gets jobbed from the NCAA tournament, right? Instead of getting your governor and your state's attorney general, and I understand they're not doing anything else. I understand they're just hanging out, talking about athletics. Instead of getting your governor, right, get your AD. Let's get Kirby at the podium. And let's sue the NCAA with the likes of Payne, Powell, Truitt, and Chandler. They could do it. They could take on the masses. They can also help the little guy if you need help. Personal injury, family law, estate planning, pretty much anything you need legal help with, they can help you out. Title IX as well. So if hypothetically you've decided to sue the NCAA and then you lose your coach, they might even help you find a new coach. Let's say, I don't know, like if Indiana was open and then your coach, your first-year coach left and then is probably taking his son with him who's dealing with an injury. Then again, that's just hypothetical. The first question here. So, how about West Virginia's woes of late? What happened to West Virginia? Did I miss something?
I would probably be calling our friends at Payne, Powell, Truitt, and Chandler for estate planning if I was a West Virginia fan right now, because I think that probably would have killed me.
Here's another West Virginia fan. Thank you for repping the Flying WV. We're in shambles.
Dude.
It's tough, man. It's been a tough week for West Virginia. And if anyone knows it, Texas Tech fans know it. We've dealt with that. Not specifically, but we know how it feels. It feels like West Virginia versus everybody right now. And solidarity, we stand strong. If I was West Virginia, I would hire Will Wade or somebody like that who is winning at the lower level but has been at the power level before. Of course, I don't know how committed Will Wade is either. I mean, is Kevin Pittsnoggle out coaching somewhere? No, I think he's a middle school principal or something. I don't know. Because when things like this happen, when you hire the hot new young coach and he leaves you after a year, sometimes an AD or a fan base will say, we need one of our own, a la Tuberville to Kingsbury. Just go hire another good coach. Not that Cliff wasn't a good coach. He was just, I think you hired him too early as the head coach. Just go get somebody. I didn't say it. Smart Football says it. Chris Beard at West Virginia would be a problem. I don't think Chris Beard is going to leave Ole Miss for West Virginia, though he should. West Virginia did a better job than Ole Miss in basketball. But I don't know what he's waiting on.
I think
Chris Beard could be waiting on the next big job.
Yeah, I don't think that's the big job that he's probably holding out for. And I think the other thing too that you've seen kind of start to trickle out with DeVries leaving is NIL and having that specific amount of budget available to him to build a roster was a top priority. It's clear he was going to take either the Iowa or the Indiana job, but the Iowa job obviously comes with a very low NIL budget. And the way Chris Beard constructs teams in the current college basketball era does not survive without strong NIL. And even while Ole Miss is, not one of the top dogs in the SEC, there's still an SEC budget there. And if West Virginia is not willing to write him a big old check, then I just can't see him being swayed to take that job.
Yeah. I just wake up in a cold sweat with Kansas Jayhawks head coach Chris Beard going through my head.
That's likely. That's going to happen.
Yeah. Great. All right, we'll talk about the teams that actually made the tournament. Sorry, that's mean as well. But first, money. What do you think about the CBC? Have you looked into this at all? College Basketball Crown.
Yes.
It's seemingly already killed the NIT. The NIT field is all mid-major. There is not a single Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State maybe Georgia Tech or something. They're over there in the NIT. But those are way down the list of their respective conferences. TCU denied an invitation. West Virginia denied an invitation. But everyone else over there, it's a lot of Power 5. It's Georgetown. It's interesting. I probably not going to watch much of it, but it does. It's all in Vegas. It's all in like a week. And it's all, I think, leading up to the national championship game, or at least into the second or third week. So it's interesting. Feels like an in-season thing, but
yeah,
it's all on Fox, and Fox, to me, kind of underhandedly conspired with these power conferences because they signed contracts that the top two teams would go to the CBC and not anywhere else. So I thought that was interesting. All right. The NCAA tournament. How do you want to go about this? Do you want to just start with the region and talk through it? Do you want to talk through some other maybe North Carolina things going around, or would you rather start with Texas Tech? Those are your three options. Money, choose wisely.
Let's start with Tech.
All right. The Red Raiders will be a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. Every 3 seed they've ever been, they've reached the Sweet 16 at least. That is 4 separate times in their history. This will be the 5th. At least the Sweet 16. I think they went to the Sweet 16 twice, the Elite 8 twice, a Final Four, and a championship appearance. They will be in the West, the Florida, the 1 seed, St. John's, the 2 seed. Your pod down here, Texas Tech versus UNC Wilmington, a potential round 2 matchup with either Missouri or Drake. We'll talk about both of those teams and the Seahawks in just a minute. The other pod that you would potentially see in the Sweet 16, one of Arkansas, Kansas, St. John's, or Omaha. Let's start with the immediate round 1 opponent, the Seahawks of UNC Wilmington. Money, 0-1 in quad 1 games. Against Kansas was their loss. 80 84 to 68 or something, 88 to 66, something like that.
Yeah.
Not important. On November 19th, their quad 2 games, 0-0. Did not play a quad 2 game. And then they played like twice as many quad 4 games as quad 3 games. So not a particularly strong schedule. You put together a sheet on UNC Wilmington. Take me through the team. And to me, it feels like they present maybe a bit of a challenge offensively. Their offense, our defense, present a bit of a challenge to our defense here at Texas Tech, with just a little bit of paint presence and some success inside. And their defense seems like a good matchup for Texas Tech's offense, I'll say, especially if you're all healthy and shooting and ripping. So tell me what you think about UNC Wilmington, and I guess let's pick against the spread here at 14.5 or 15.5, whatever it is, just to kind of get a feel for what you think of the game.
Yeah, so I think you started with probably the most important disclaimer, which I'm working on a full scouting report on this team that I'm looking to have up on Patreon soon. But
Where's
on paper, what?
You have it where?
On Patreon?
Patreon.com/Gamblin
Gauchos. Forgot we were on YouTube tonight.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
If you're not subscribed, head over there. But that's what I'm prefacing it with, because this team on paper looks like a good analytical team. Like, they are an efficient performing offense at the mid-major level. And, after Selection Sunday, John Fanta had picked UNCW as one of his Cinderella candidates. And I'm sitting at my airport gate in Las Vegas, and I'm thinking, okay, I need to learn everything that I can about this team to see why this decision would be made. And as I've gotten into it, I kind of came away with the same conclusions that you did, which is this is a high-performing offense to a degree, and I want to get into some of the nuances of that. But if you look at conference-only metrics, and again, the biggest disclaimer with all of this is strength of schedule and level of competition between these two teams. But if you look at conference-only statistics, Texas Tech's adjusted offensive efficiency was 116.5. UNCW's was 116.1. You look at Texas Tech's three-point percentage, it was 36.3. UNC Wilmington's was 36.8. You look at the offensive rebounding percentages, UNC Wilmington, again, 36.7. Texas Tech, 32.4. This is an offense that performed analytically at a similar caliber in conference-only statistics. Now, the Seahawks were not playing Big 12 teams. It is obviously a greater indictment on Texas Tech and the legitimacy of their performance that they were able to do that against Big 12 competition. But on the surface, this is an offense that can really perform. Now, the downsides to their offense are that although they have a very efficient three-point shooting line there, they don't shoot a lot of them. And they're very streaky from deep, depending on what day it is. And so I think that's immediately a plus for Texas Tech, because although there have certainly been some down games, you have been relatively efficient at the caliber that you've shot threes, and it has been at a high level. The other thing is UNC Wilmington's defense, as you mentioned, as I've been watching the very limited amount of film that I can find on this team, it's very reminiscent of Texas Tech's early season perimeter defense. They have size. Like, they are not built like a mid-major scrappy team. They've got 6'5", 6'7" dudes across the lineup, except for their lead guard, who's 6'1" and still their best player. So they have the size to match up with you there, but their communication and the most simple ball screens, cutters, actions, switches. It just puts them on their heels and they can't seem to recover. I was watching one of their games against Hofstra, and Hofstra initiated a high ball screen with 4 guys out and 1 guy with the ball in the high post. The player on the receiving end of the screen did not have the ball, just simply rolled to the basket. And UNC Wilmington ended up with all 5 defenders below the free throw line. I mean, there's 3 open shots on the perimeter. And if they play defense like that, if Texas Tech is making shots, this will not be a close game. And I really still do feel like that is the key to this game. If Texas Tech is making shots, this should not be close. But if Texas Tech is missing shots, this game is going to get very interesting because UNC Wilmington has size down low. They have 2 bigs who they kind of rotate in and out throughout the game pretty consistently. One starts, one doesn't, but they each play about 50% of the minutes. It's Harlan Obi-Oha, who is their starter. He's a 7-footer, true rim protector, scores all of his buckets at the rim, but a really, really good block percentage, top 75 in the country. And then Kamari McGriff, who I think is a way better offensive player than their starter, also has one of the best block percentages in the country. So you've got 2 bigs, one 6'9", I think that's Kamari McGriff. He's a little bit shorter. And then the starter is a true 7-footer. Those 2 guys can score inside. And that's what this team has done so well when the shot making hasn't happened, is they've gotten the ball down low to their guys and allowed them to score easy baskets. And then they've defended that area of the floor much better compared to the perimeter defense. So if you're not making shots, they have 2 available options who could defend JT Toppin. And in the event that you're not making shots, you're going to need a lot from JT Toppin. So I think that's really the key to the game, because if you're not making shots, everything is going to be a reaction of that. And this team just feels like a particularly bad matchup if that happens. I still think you have far more talent. I still think you're the better team. But they have the structure to at least keep it interesting with you on paper.
I was trying to look at their roster, and when you're doing this and you haven't watched the team much, you're looking at the roster and saying, all right, here's the starting 5. Here's the guys that play a bunch. You maybe get to like 6 or 7 guys are important. You look at this just stats without reading into the team at all. There's 1 guy that plays 32 minutes a game. Nobody else plays more than 24 minutes a game. There are 5, 6 guys, 7, I guess, that play 19 or more, between 19 and 24. And then a guy that plays 15 and a guy that plays 11. They don't – it's the weirdest minute distribution I've ever seen. Like, if you go to Texas Tech's, it's a tight 7 and really a tight 6. This team has 1 guy that stays on the floor pretty much the whole game, and that is their point guard. Newbie. And everyone else is just staying fresh. I know the health of Darian Williams and Chance McMillan matters a lot in the NCAA tournament to go deep into the tournament. My question, Money, is, are we going to see Darian Williams and Chance McMillan start this game, get to a certain point, maybe a 10-point lead?
Ooh.
Just wait with me. Maybe a 10-point lead in the first half early on, and then you kind of letting them kind of like they're in foul trouble, but not in foul trouble, and you kind of move through it, and then you get back. I don't know. I think if you could play Chance and Darian Williams 20 minutes or less, I think that'd be really good. Oh, hold on, Money. Is this the Maddie? Tech by 100. Write it down. Shout out. I miss Maddie. Do you miss Maddie? I miss Maddie.
Every day.
Come back to the Discord, Maddie. All right. Well, actually, do what you need to do. Not going to force you to come back, but I miss you. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Do you think you can get to a place where you have, 20 minutes from those guys, or 15 or 10, and you're just kind of letting it ride past that, and you're not forcing it?
I think you can.
If they start, they play.
I think you can get to that point. I just think you have to play them full throttle until you get to that point. And I don't think that point is until you're up like 15 with 6 minutes in the game.
Okay. So you'd play them 25 minutes across the first 30.
I would play them as much as I possibly could.
Okay.
And I think Grant McCaslin will too, assuming they're available.
Because we'll get to that in a second. There is a little bit of a I don't know, a thought, I guess, that you can't just coast into a big game. You need to be ready to play 25 minutes. You need to be ready to play 30 minutes. So if Chance hasn't played for 2 weeks and then plays 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden against Missouri or Drake, you need him to play 35. It hurts going back to back there. But maybe if you play 20, you're more prepared to play 35. It's kind of a catch-22 because in that respect, you might be more tired, but you might be more, battle-tested in that respect. So we'll see. Now, you alluded to, if they're ready, Grant McCaslin in his press conference after the tournament, or after the selection show, basically said he's confident they're both going to play. He just doesn't know to what extent. And I think I agree with you saying if they're playing, they're playing. Like, you're not going to just go out there and put them in for 2 minutes. But I think they're both available. Now, have we ever figured out what happened to Chance McMillan?
I don't think so. There was talk about sickness, and there was talk about an abductor strain or something in his abdomen.
Well, walking out to the Arizona game, he had flashing lights under his shooting shirt, which looked like some kind of STEM device. And then Darian Williams, obviously, in the boot. This seems to me like if that was a championship or a game that mattered, Darian Williams would have been playing. I don't know. I don't foresee Darian Williams not playing in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. I expect both of them to play. I would think so, based on nothing else in my own opinion.
Well, let me ask you this, Money. Let's assume JT Toppin is the best player for Texas Tech in the NCAA tournament. By the way, Sporting News, second-team All-American. AP, second-team All-American. That is 2 of the 3 or 4 you need to be a consensus All-American. Can you name the other 3 consensus All-Americans in Texas Tech basketball history?
There's 3?
There's 3.
Okay. One's Culver.
Check.
The other is Emmett.
Check. I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
The third one played in between the 2, but closer to Culver.
I'm very sleep deprived right now. I feel like I'm drawing a blank.
Keenan Evans.
Okay. Yes.
2018 Keenan Evans, and it was
he was a third team, right?
A couple of third teamers, yeah.
Yeah.
Emmett got a couple of first teamers and second teamers. He was second team All AP. And then Culver as well, some second teamers, and then like a first team or 2 out kind of in the periphery. But both of them consensus All-Americans, and I believe Toppin will join them as consensus All-American.
Yeah, he should.
He should. So those will be your 4 consensus All-Americans there. All right.
I think any other year, he's probably on the first team.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not. If you're one of the 10 best players in the country, I'm not upset if you're first or second team. I think that's a similar honor.
Yeah, I would not have
like All American, All American to me.
Right. I would not have Braden Smith on my first team All American ballot, who ended up being, I think, the one guy that Toppin probably could have jumped. I think everyone else there rightfully deserved it. Maybe an argument for Mark Sears, but even then, he was probably the best guard in college basketball for the last 2 months. Walter Clayton Jr., obviously, with what Florida is doing, and just his complete ability to score the basketball and run the offense has been really fun to watch for that team. Cooper Flagg and Janai Broom are the two leading candidates for Player of the Year. I don't think Toppin sneaks past any of those guys. I think it's really Braden Smith, but even then, I probably would have had Cam Jones of Marquette on my first team ballot over Braden Smith, and then it probably would have been a decision on Toppin. So I don't think he was robbed, and I don't think it's an insult in any way that he's a second-team All-American. He was banged up a little bit throughout the season too, which I think hurt his overall production numbers, which are heavily looked at for All-Americans. So good season, nonetheless. Very, very good season.
Yeah, if he was a third team, I would have been a little bit upset just because he was unanimous All Big 12 from a couple of publications and Player of the Year and Newcomer of the Year. Like, if you're all of that in the Big 12, you should be rewarded with at least second team All-American, but there's that. Okay, if JT Toppin's the best player on Texas Tech, who's the second best player in the tournament? Considering let's say they have a deep run, who's the second best player?
I really think it's Christian Anderson.
Yeah, I was going to say I think it's one of two people, either Christian Anderson or Elijah Hawkins.
Yeah, and I think what makes the difference for me with Anderson is his defense. You win NCAA tournament games with your guards, primarily on the offensive end, but if you have a counter like you do in Anderson, and he's playing defense the way he has down the stretch this season, you have an elite weapon on your team. And he would play probably 30 some odd minutes a night, 35 minutes a night, and they play him and Hawkins on the floor together.
Especially if Chance is out.
Yeah.
Obviously, Darian Williams is somebody in the mix for that as well. Just with health and everything else, I don't know. I would be much more comfortable saying Christian Anderson or Elijah Hawkins, because if Hawkins goes 12-8 a couple of games, and is really pivotal to not only himself scoring but scoring other, and then pulls down 5 boards like he has been, that's a really productive player. I expect JT Toppin to get what he wants against UNC Wilmington, and I would expect him to be able to outpace Missouri and Drake as well. Let's talk about those two teams quickly, just as potential opponents for Saturday night. Saturday night's all right. Correct me if I'm wrong. Missouri, if I could give you 3 bullet points, plays fast, offense good, defense bad.
Yeah, they don't play super fast, but their offense
plays with an offensive-minded.
Yes.
I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're an explosive offense. They can really, really score the ball both inside and out. They get to the free throw line a ton, almost more than any team in the country. They're physical, but that does not show up on the defensive end, as you mentioned.
And then with Drake, if I could give you 3 points just for my limited viewing on Drake, it would be 30 wins, which I don't care where you are. If you win 30, that's good. My next point would be they know exactly what they want to do, and they're going to do that. There's not there's not much change game to game. It's just here's what we do, and this is what we're going to do offensively and defensively. And then the third point would just be they have Ben McCollum, which if I could give you either Missouri or Drake in round 2, who would you want to see?
Missouri.
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't want to play Army and football with a week of preparation. And I think that's similar. Drake is the service academy of offenses in college basketball. They're just so specific to what they do. All their passing, and you got to keep up with it, and your help has to be tight. They're the service academy, and they can get open shots, and they will drain them. And they've played together, most of these guys, for 2 full years now, or more, because they all followed their coach from his previous stop. So, I would rather play Missouri. I think you can dominate Missouri. That might be a little strong, but I think you can beat Missouri. I think they're UCF. Now, saying that UCF did this, but I think if today's Texas Tech played UCF, you'd beat UCF by 15. I think that was a bad example. But I think you needed to lose to UCF to get to today's Texas Tech. So
no, but you're right in terms of like the game situation. Like UCF ran the ball up and down the floor. It was the fastest game you played all year, and that was not comfortable for you. You're a slow team. And speaking of slow teams that run methodical offenses, that's Drake. They're dead last in tempo this year. They're the slowest offense in college basketball. And they are efficient. They don't shoot a ton of threes, but they shoot them well enough. They also get to the free throw line a ton, and they get a lot of offensive rebounds. It's pretty much your blueprint. And I feel like I know that these two coaches have some mutual respect for each other. They kind of coach similarly. Ben McCollum, I think, has gotten more defensive-minded, and Grant McCaslin has kind of shifted to a more offensive mindset with Jeff Linder on his sidelines. But this Drake team is no joke, especially defensively. Very, very good on the perimeter. They steal a ton of shots. They don't let you score from deep. They turn you over a lot. It's not a good matchup. And Rob, I remember when we talked a few weeks back, maybe months back, and I ran Evan Maya's tournament simulator 100 times. I did that again tonight. Okay. Texas Tech in the round of 32. So obviously you only play Missouri or Drake there. You made it to the round of 32, or you lost in the round of 32, I guess I should say, 22 times. How many times do you think they lost? Or 21 times, excuse me. Nope, that's not right either. 22 times. I got it now. How many times do you think they lost to Drake? How many times do you think they lost to Mizzou?
Just so I can have a full understanding, how many times did they lose to Wilmington?
16 times.
What? So they lost to 22 out of 84 matchups to the round of 32?
Yes.
Is it 25% of the time?
Here, I'm just going to make this easier. I feel like we're both on different pages.
No. I know what you're saying. It feels like what you're saying is Drake beat you 18 times and Missouri beat you 3 times.
Yeah, so Drake beat you 9 times. You were 5-9 against Drake, and you were 16-13 against Mizzou.
Wow.
So you had a winning record over Mizzou. You played them more frequently. The upset was not as common. But you were not good against Drake.
So in that matchup, Missouri's a better matchup for Drake than Texas Tech is.
Yeah.
in those metrics.
Yeah.
It's hard to look at those team stats with a team like Drake because you're like, oh, they have 3 blocks a game. They're not good in the interior. But they play half the possessions that another team might. So really they have, 7 blocks per 100 possessions, but they only play 50 possessions in a game. So it's kind of hard. You really have to dig into a team like Drake because they're so slow. It's like it's every 3 games makes up a game for most other teams
Yeah.
you play possession wise. So it's like, oh, they score 54 points a game. Their offense stinks. Well, no, they're really efficient. They just take less shots than everyone else. So it's interesting to kind of look through Drake. I would rather play Missouri. I think you can match up well with Missouri and beat Missouri. It's surprising to me that they have Texas Tech as 16-time losers to UNC Wilmington.
Yeah.
I don't get that at all.
I think it's
15-point favorites, right?
Yeah. But I think this simulator accounts for a little bit more March Madness unpredictability. And I think with that, it's a better evaluation of how these two teams stack up rather than just looking at what the predictive metrics tell you. Because obviously Texas Tech is a more efficient, talented, prolific team than UNC Wilmington. But again, man, I'm telling you, if Texas Tech is not making shots, this is going to be an interesting game.
Question from the audience. Have Bill Self or Coach Calipari ever won NCAA tournament games?
I can't think of any off the top of my head.
They don't have any national championships. I don't know. I will say, Florida's a new coach. He's off in the distance. It would be a while before you match up with Florida. The Omaha thing is a fun story. Starter says I'm talking in our region. Yeah, smart football. Arkansas and Kansas are literally in your region. That's Calipari and Bill Self. They're the box right below Texas Tech.
That'll be your Sweet 16 matchup.
Yeah. St. John's, Arkansas, and Kansas will play for the right to play Texas Tech.
Or Omaha. Don't ditch the kicking trash can team.
Or Omaha. Yeah. What I was saying was teams like this is the Doug Edert Peacocks or whatever they are. It's that team that got hot for the last 2 weeks of the season, and everyone is like, "Oh, watch out for them in the NCAA tournament." It's the F team that beat Furman. Furman beat Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like a 15-2? Omaha is that team that has the trash cans and has the championship belts and whatever else that are jumping out of places. So I think Omaha is, whatever happens there. I would say Rick Pitino and Texas Tech are playing in the Sweet 16. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We will rediscuss what's going on in the tournament after the first 2 rounds. But I do think we'll be talking about Texas Tech still playing basketball. What do you think, Money?
I think you mean first 2 games. Well, I guess they are rounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, the round of 64, the round of 32.
That is true. Yes, I do think so. I think if you're making shots, yes.
Okay. I think he'll make shots.
I think you win on Thursday. I think just with this team's consistent ability to make threes, I think it puts you in a really good position to kind of run away against a UNC Wilmington team that lacks shots. I think the perimeter is certainly an interesting aspect of this game. And then obviously interior. I think with Toppin, you still have a safety valve. Again, I'm interested to see what those 2 guys look like against him. But I think he's such a prolific player that certainly probably deserves the edge heading into that game thinking about it. So I think with your inside-out game, it's going to be really tough for this team to match up defensively. I just don't think you want this to be a game where they get hot and you go cold, because they do have the blueprint of a team that will make you pay in that situation. So make shots in this first round, you're good. Second round is where things will get interesting. I think either way, you're going to have a very interesting matchup on your hands.
All right, Money. Let's go. Let's go through. Yeah, take it to the Discord there, smart. Let's go through just some regions, kind of flying through it. I've already picked my bracket. I don't love it. I actually hate it, which means hopefully it does better than my past couple of years of brackets. This is my official Pick It or Parlay bracket. If you want to join the Gamblin Gauchos official bracket challenge, join us on Patreon, patreon.com/Gamblin Gauchos. If you win, the money we send to the Matador Club in April will be made out to the order of you. Well, your name will send it to the Matador Club. So you get your name on a big check. Starting the South, Money. I seriously want to pick Louisville over Auburn. If you can talk me out of that, that'd be nice. For some reason, I picked the Tritons over Michigan.
It's a good pick.
And I've got Ole Miss and Michigan State fighting for the chance to play Auburn in the Elite Eight, and I've got Michigan State in my Final Four. Talk through yourself if you've got it up or if you've even picked it. You might be one of those guys that does it Thursday morning. But I'll let all the information soak in. But just looking at a bracket, what would you say there in the South?
Yeah, I think Auburn's kind of I hate going chalk, but with this team, I think it's a safe bet. Auburn is just a juggernaut on both ends of the floor. Obviously, have run into some struggles the past couple of weeks, but I still think they have the talent to beat any team in the country. I think Creighton is a really intriguing team to watch too. They're old. They've got good inside-out basketball. I love your UC San Diego pick. I think they have the three-point shooting to beat Michigan. But Michigan also feels like a really complete team to me. Like when I watch them, I just enjoy watching them play basketball. It feels like they've got a lot of the right pieces. So I really like that team too. Ole Miss is an interesting team. I don't know what Iowa State will do without Gilbert.
Yeah, I really wanted to pick them.
Yeah. Michigan State, obviously, it's Izzo time. And then Marquette as well. This region, I would almost rather have Texas Tech be in this region than the region they're in.
Yeah, when I first saw the bracket, because Texas Tech's, they were last, obviously, the last region to be announced. Just straight off, I thought it was the toughest region, top to bottom. I don't know if I really feel that now because I'm a little bit scared of Drake, just matchup wise. But I don't know. It just feels like top to bottom, Texas Tech's a really, really tough spot.
Yeah, I don't agree with the sentiment that this is an easy draw for Texas Tech.
No.
I think this is a very tough region. I was, kind of intrigued by that thought whenever the bracket first came out. But the more that I've dug into all the teams that are within this region, I think you're going to be in some really tough games. I mean, any amount of craziness gets you matchups against Florida, UConn, who even though they're not the same UConn team that they have been, they still have a lot of talented players on that roster. Oklahoma's defense, Memphis is as streaky of a team as there is in college basketball. Colorado State, even if they pull off the upset, a lot of three-point shooting, a lot of good offense from that team. Maryland is a matchup that was not favorable to you in the last time I ran 100 simulations. It still wasn't this time. There's still a very, very tough matchup for you. Again, Missouri or Drake, the polar opposites, but either one of those is going to force you to play a full 40 minutes. Kansas, you've beat them in Allen Fieldhouse, but it was not easy.
Yeah.
And they certainly have the defense that if you do not shoot threes against them, they will turn it into a rock fight. Arkansas, I'm a little bit lower on than I feel like the consensus is, but still, it's an SEC respectable opponent. And then St. John's, who I actually think is a really, really good team, and who I didn't want to because I wanted Texas Tech to get that final 2 seed over them. But as I was watching them the last couple of weeks, I can see it. If they're making threes, they're one of the best teams in the country.
All right, let's go over to the East with Duke. Oh, by the way, Spencer saying North Carolina putting haters in shambles. They're up 57-30, up 17 on San Diego State. Money, we are 15 minutes away from being officially on Magoon Gauchos watch. He is playing today. A block, a steal, 2 rebounds, 9 points. I don't know if he'll enter. He might be one of those guys that takes a month and a half to figure out if he wants to go to the NBA and then enters the transfer portal or stays at San Diego State. Either way, we are in Magoon Gauchos watch as Texas Tech has had 2 of the last 2 Mountain West Freshman of the Year, an honor that Magoon Gauchos got this year in the Mountain West. All right, let's go to the East. I've got Duke chalk all the way through, beating Baylor and Arizona, though I think Arizona, if Cooper Flagg is tender there in the Sweet 16, could certainly beat Duke. Otherwise, I'm pretty chalk here. I've got Oregon, Arizona, BYU, Wisconsin, and Alabama in the round of 32. I've got BYU beating St. Mary's. I've got St. Mary's beating Alabama, BYU beating St. Mary's, BYU losing to Duke, Duke to the Final Four.
I love it. I think BYU is a fun matchup here, especially with St. Mary's, 2 very high-caliber offensive teams. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Duke is far and away the best team in the country. When healthy, they're so complete. The difference that Flagg makes when he's on the floor on both ends is unmatched in college basketball this year. So I think Duke is the safe pick here.
All right, to the Midwest we go. I've got Houston. Well, Houston's my Final Four team. I'll tell you how we get there. I've got Tennessee chalk and Kentucky chalk all the way through. I think Kentucky-Illinois is a really tight game. But I have Kentucky, Tennessee. This is going to be a 1-2 matchup. But I do get a little interesting here with McNeese beating Clemson, the Clemson alum beating Clemson, and High Point beating Purdue. You know I don't trust Matt Painter in the tournament. So that's going to be a 13-12 matchup. So McNeese will play Houston in the Sweet 16 before Houston beats Tennessee in the Elite Eight. That's a Final Four of Duke, Houston, Texas Tech, and Michigan State. Oh, let me talk through the West. Well, do you have any comment on the Midwest?
I like it. I probably would not pick McNeese State. I probably would have last year. Clemson's a tough matchup there, though. Love the High Point pick. That's a great offense led by Demarion Williams, who's been nails for them this year. I think Kentucky bounces Illinois easily in the Sweet 16, and then Tennessee just gets a freebie with one of Utah State or UCLA. So I think this is another region that I see is pretty chalk, unfortunately. Makes me a casual, I guess.
All right, let's go to the West. Florida beating UConn. Maryland beating Colorado State. Colorado State over Memphis. I don't know. I don't like that I picked 3-12s. You know what? I'm going to pick Clemson and not McNeese. So there's 2 12s instead of 3 12s. But now you have – I got to go do this. So now you have Florida all the way to the Elite Eight through Colorado State and Maryland or whatever. And then I've got Missouri over Drake, Tech over Missouri, Kansas over Arkansas, St. John's over Kansas, Texas Tech over St. John's, Texas Tech over Florida, Texas Tech over Michigan State, Texas Tech over Duke in the national championship. The banner comes down. The confetti flies. I'm a homer. I don't care the Red Raiders are winning a national championship. Let's do it.
I love it.
Magoon has the graphic ready Fardaw style. Is that Terrence Shannon style in the plane? And then we have McNeese has that student manager with the radio. Yeah, he's got the boombox. He also has at least 3 NIL deals now.
Yep.
I'm not going to make you pick a national champion unless you want to.
Duke.
Yeah. I've probably filled out brackets, starting as a youth. I've probably filled out brackets because my dad used to print them off at school and bring them home, and we'd fill them out as a family, right? We had competitions or whatever. I've probably been filling them out for 30 years, right? I think I've had Kansas and Duke in my Final Four 28 times. I just always put those two teams, from what I remember, certainly Duke. And I don't care what Duke's been. When Coach K was coaching, I had Duke in my Final Four. Now, that lost a lot of bracket challenges. Because there for a while, Duke was either like losing in the first round or going to the Final Four. So I remember one particularly heartbreaking VCU game. But I think Duke is back. I think they're very good. And I don't think Cooper Flagg was faking. I think he legitimately hurt his ankle. But I think if that had been in the tournament, he would have maybe not come back out that game a la Tariq Owens, but certainly the next game he would have been run out of the tunnel to play. So there's that. I just hope for Texas Tech's health because I do think if they're healthy, they can beat anybody. If they're making shots, they can beat anybody. I think Elijah Hawkins needs to have a good game. I hope Kerwin Walton hits 3 a game.
You need at least 2 from him a game.
Hits him quick to get going against the Seahawks, and then him and Overton need to play well enough to keep everyone healthy in these first 2 rounds. Because if somehow you could get up by 20 in the first half and not have to play your guys much in the second half in both of these first round matchups, and all of a sudden Darian Williams gets, potentially like 2 weeks off and his ankle's really feeling good, then you're much more dangerous. If he's playing 40 minutes twice and rehabbing all week, I don't know. It just seems like you need to be healthy to win. All right, final thoughts?
Let's win the whole damn thing.
There's only one thing left to do there, money. So the whole effing thing. All right. Shout out to Mooney, new slang in the chat. Shout out to Smart Football. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Spencer. Whoever else is over there. Lubbock Yanero. If you, again, are listening on YouTube, hello. If you're that one Texas fan, suck it. Rent-free. If you're watching, let's see. If you're listening on the Republic of Football feed, appreciate it. And again, if you want more content, if you want extra episodes, if you want in-depth breakdowns, post-game from Money, if you want conversations with Tarleton State coaches or Grand Canyon coaches, join the Patreon as well. We could talk through those as Money was networking, I would say, at the Western Athletic Conference. All right. Billy Clyde, I thought, was looking healthy.
He looks good in person, man. He looks happy too.
Okay, good. Because he obviously he's had some health troubles post Texas Tech with, some of those is, well, we all know. But yeah, I'm glad he's looking healthy. All right, we will see you Sunday or potentially next Monday or Tuesday, depending on how the tournament goes. hopefully for a Sweet 16 preview. And maybe if you get to the Sweet 16, we do a Sweet 16 preview and then a separate Elite 8 preview. And then a separate Elite Final Four preview. And a separate National Championship preview. And we just do we rip off 8 pods in the next 2 weeks because we're winning so much.
This is March.
All right. Whatever it is, pay attention to wherever you pay attention, and we'll tell you. All right. Love you.